Greetings, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to do our never attended assignment, and you still need to do it, but I wanted to do it for you so that I make sure you get this done. So let's go ahead and open up the PDF with the assignment, and it's right here. And I'll make it a little bit bigger in case you can't see. But we're going to basically create a Hello World program, which you probably did in all your classes. Okay. So, and then you can see you're going to replace your student name with your name and your favorite food with your favorite food. Um, so once again, I hope you've installed Visual Studio. If you had to install 2026, it should work. Um, but if you are a Mac user, you would have had to set up your Windows environment first. Now, we're going to run Visual Studio. It will create a repos directory on your computer. What I wanted you to do, and hopefully you did this as well, you're going to create this CIS-130 student folder where it's going to contain everything. And then we're going to run Visual Studio and create this app. And we're going to name it these following things. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now um, I did put a link right here for Visual Studio so I could quickly bring it up. So let's go ahead and bring up Visual Studio. And again, if you have 2026, that's fine too, or 2025. I forget which one it is. But we're basically going to create a new project. So let's go ahead and create it. Again, you want to set your filters up here so it narrows down what type of platform you're going to use. And again, we're not going to use the framework. We're going to use the .NET. And right here, when you see this, that means it's a newer one. If it has framework, that's an older environment to use. So we're going to select a C# program. It's going to be in a Windows environment. It's going to be a desktop application, and it's going to be a Windows format. So let's go ahead and uh, select that. Then we go to next. And again, I want you to put this, get used to putting it where it's supposed to be. So in my case, um, it's going to be under assignments. And so I, of course, already have a bunch of assignments. You won't have any. I'm going to select this folder. And then the name of this program, this application or project is going to be NA Assignment Student Name. Okay. And again, I normally just place in the solution, the project in the same folder. Okay. Then you hit next. And again, you want to select .NET 8.0. Okay. Get used to doing that. Um, you should even be able to do that with the newer version of Visual Studio. Hit create, and it's going to create the environment for you. Okay. And so, and I'm going to, and it's already created it for me right here. So let me go ahead and bring it on over here. I'm going to try to make this, I'm going to continue to toggle back and forth between this, the, the PDF and the actual Visual Studio. So let me go ahead and do that, set that up, okay? And let me try to make this as large as I can, okay? Yeah, the one thing I've told you is that I like to have my environment be the same all the time, okay? Um, so let me bring this on over. All right. All right. So hopefully you can see that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my environment is something that I'm used to. So um again, I like to have my properties windows always open, which it is. And if it wasn't, you go to view properties window and it'll put it under your solution explorer window. I also like to have my toolbox. The toolbox only is only needed when you're in your designer mode of your form, your GUI mode. So, but I want to bring up my toolbox, so let me go ahead and bring that up. And I always like to have mine pinned. If it's unpinned, then they don't stay in the same place. All right. So we've done all that. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we need to close Form 1, okay, because we're going to rename it. So we're going to close it, all right, and then we're going to right click on Form 1 and we're going to rename it to NA form. So let's go ahead and close this right here. Then we're going to right click here and we're going to hit rename and we're going to call it NA space form. Make sure you don't get rid of the .cs. And then as you hit return, it should change everything. Okay? So notice how it changes these things under it. Okay? So everything was changed. If you had your Form 1 open, that may not happen. All right? So, so we did that. Now, now we can if you hit Form NA and hit the Enter key, you'll see a red line show up. That's because it doesn't have a Form NA. All right. So we actually want to call it uh, NA form. Okay. Um, again, we can go look at this. This is areas where we won't be messing around with very much. Okay. But let's go take a look at that in our environment. Um, let's uh, let's double click right here. Okay. So let's make sure the namespace is called NA Assignment student name. Okay. Hopefully that'll be all right for us. Okay. Um, and again, you won't be messing with this area, but there is additional code here. Okay. All right. Let's move on down. We're good. So now we're going to bring up the form once again. So we can close that down. Let's just double click right here. It brings up the form. Okay. Uh, we do have access to this form right now. Now, all your controls are going to be under all Windows forms. Okay. So there they are. All your controls that you can drag and drop onto this form. All right. So, um, and again, we already have the properties windows showing up, so we should have brought that in. Um, now, again, that we can switch that name to Form 1, but we're going to leave it NA form. So just follow my directions on this. All right. So we're good. Um, and again, as we select that, what we're going to do is now we're going to name this NA form. Okay. So let's go back to our instructions. We want to call it Form NA. All right. So let's do that. FRM NA. Okay. Now notice this didn't change, but our form name has now been changed. Okay. And you can see that this is a Windows form. All right. So now um, we're going to change the text line in the form's title bar from Form 1 to NA Assignment. And we're going to put um, and enter NA Assignment dash student name. Make sure you replace your student name with your name. So I'm going to put my name in there. So let's go ahead and change that. Uh, Again, two ways to list all your properties, either alphabetically or by type. I currently have mine all listed alphabetically. Okay. Um, if I went to type, then they put it under the specific category they might be under. I always like alphabetically. So I know I gotta go change text. Um, so I'm going to call it NA assignment. Brett Abdullah. Of course, you use your own name. Okay. If I hit enter, it changes the form's title. That's what the text box is. You'll notice most of your controls do have a text box. Um, so, so we are able to change that, no problem. A couple other things to point out while I'm in properties. Again, this listed by category, your properties. This lists them alphabetically. This right here says show the properties. This right here says show the events. We're not going to use any events right now, but we will at times click the events. These are all different events that can happen on a form. Okay. And I'll explain that more as we go along. All right. So we've done that. Now we've already brought up the toolbox. Again, you can use common controls or you can use Windows Forms controls. Either or, they'll be in both spots. Okay. So we're going to add 3 labels. Okay. And the font size for the labels are going to be 18, so they're all the same size, um, and they're all going to be bold, okay? And they're all going to start with LBL, which is just a common way of naming your labels, okay? LBL stands for labels. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go back to here. So what we can do is we can drag a label onto here. Okay. So we're dragging a label onto there. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this the first one, I think it's LBL Hello World. Okay. So let's go ahead and make that LBL Hello whoop, capital W. Okay. And let me copy this because we're going to use it down in the text. All right. Now, a couple things we want to do is we want to make sure that, okay, I didn't want a background color. So let me just do a Control Z, Control Z. Now we're good. Okay. In fact, let me delete this out. I don't like that. I'm not sure what I did. So drag it on there. Uh, LBL, hello world. World. Okay. Um, go down to font, expand font. We want to make it bold. So we'll say true. And we want to make the size 18. Okay. Now, what we can do instead of having to do that 3 different times, we can copy and paste these. So I'm going to do a Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to do a Control V. Okay. And it'll do that, and then we could do a Control V again. So now we can switch each of these separate. But we don't have to, we already made the size 18, we already made it bold. So let's go ahead and let's fix each one of these. Okay, so hello world is obvious, so let's go switch the text there to hello world. Whoop. And then, so if we hit enter, I think that's exactly what it wanted. Yep. Oh, comma. And then my name is, and then my favorite food is. Okay. So, so we have to change these two, their names, because if we look at it, it just says, it just made it the next default name. So we're going to make this LBL name. Okay. And then we're going to make this LBL food. Okay. So while we're here, let's go ahead and put my favorite food. So what is my favorite food? My favorite food is chocolate cake. How's that? Okay. Now notice how it went too far over, so we can move that. We do have to fix this one, put a comma here. Okay. We'll put this one over here. Up. I didn't need to do that. I didn't mean to do that, but that's fine. Whenever you double click on something, it's going to create code behind that control. Okay, and that's what happened there. All right, so, and then this one is my name is, okay, what is my name? My name is Brett Abdullah. Okay, so everything's looking pretty good there. All right. Um, make sure you're working with the correct label. I made sure of that. We did all that. Um, We did that. Now, the next thing we need to do is we're going to add two buttons, one for show and one for hide. Okay. And I'm going to show you how this code behind page works now. So let's add two buttons. Um, so I'm going to drag a button on here. There. So let's go ahead and drag that there. Um, and we'll call it BTN show. Pretty sure that's what they want us to call it. Okay. And so we're going to do a button show. Okay. And then a button hide. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll call this button show. Okay. And of course, we want to make the text show. Now, there's something I want you to do here. Okay. If you notice that ampersand, we want you to put the ampersand in so that you can do an Alt S and an Alt H, okay, to make these happen. All right. You can just click on them, but you can also do an Alt S and an Alt H, and we'll try that out. So let's go back to our button, and so whatever button you want to use, whatever letter you want them to use, you put an ampersand in front of it. If I wanted the H, then I would use the H. All right. Now again, I could just copy these. But let's go ahead and drag it on there. I want to show you one other thing while we're here. Um, this will be, of course, Alt H, ampersand H. Okay, and then let's go name it appropriately. BTN hide. Okay. Now, I know this isn't part of this, but there is a way to line these up. Let's say I wanted to line this one up, want to line hide up with show. Okay, so I can select that, and then you can go to format. Um, you can align, let's align their tops, and they align. And you can align a lot of stuff here. So I just wanted to show you that right quick. All right. So that's our program. Now we have to do some code behind. Okay. So, um, so let's take a look at our notes here. We're going to make one or the other button visible. Okay. So by default, we're going to uh, have the hide be visible first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the show, because by default these are already going to be showing. Okay, these labels are going to be showing. So we'll just leave them like that. Okay. So so we're going to start off with hello world being visible. Okay. All right. So by default, hello world is going to be visible. Let's make these look a little bit better. So we won't need to show it. So we're going to set the visibility here as it loads to false. Okay. Now this one's automatically going to be set to true. Okay. But we're basically going to use these buttons to toggle between showing hello world and not showing hello world. Okay. We could do this for the form. We could do it for any of these labels. Um, but let me show you one last thing here. Now, as you remember, I've talked to you. You could go to view code. You could see your code. This is code I've accidentally created, which is fine. I can probably remove that. So let's go ahead and just remove this code because I didn't mean to add this anyways. Okay, this is where you're going to do all your coding. Okay. Now, as I go back to my GUI form, it comes back that, hey, you you told me to have a on click for hello world, and it's not there anymore. So I gotta go and physically uh, I'm going to go comment that out. So again, this is an area that you will rarely be programming in, um, but I'm going to I have to do it because you could see that this event already set and I won't be able to finish my program. All right, now if I go back to design, I should be fine once I load that again. Okay, so let's go ahead and load it and it's back to normal. All right, so like I said, this is one way to look at your code. Another way, a real easy way to code is to double click the control you want an event for. Okay, so let's double click here. All right. So it is assuming something that's not necessarily true. Okay. Um, but we want to set our LBL world to visible. Okay, so let's start typing that in. LBL, hello world, and we're going to change the property visible. And notice how IntelliSync works well for us. And we're going to, when we want to show it, we're going to make LBL world equal the Boolean value of true. Okay, and remember our semicolon. All right. And we're going to do the same thing for hide. But this time it's already assumed what I want, which is true. And it's going to make visible uh, false. Okay. So we're going to basically use these two buttons to toggle back and forth. One last thing I want to show you is we talked about how these are the properties right here. There's also events, and this is called the click event. So whenever I click this button, it's going to run this method in my code behind code. Okay. So, and the same thing for show. Okay. So right now we have two different methods or functions that we're going to be able to do when we click these buttons. All right. So let's try it out. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And if I don't see any red over here, I'm good. So I brought up the program and it's actually brought it up on my other screen. Don't get confused that this is the program. Notice how it's show isn't showing. Hide is, okay? So, if I click hide, I do have a problem. Where's the show go to? Okay. Now we could just leave them both up all the time. Okay. And I think that's what I'm going to do is just leave it up. Okay. So let's exit out. So if you remember, I set this to visible to false. I'm going to change it back to true so that we can always see our show button. Okay. So a fancy way would be inside the code to actually, when we click it, make it invisible. Okay. So we're not going to do that. So let's go ahead and try to run it again. All right. So notice um, it's showing. If I say hide, it's missing. If I say show, it's showing. And the other thing to remember, you don't see the underlines under S or under H, but they are available. So if I hit, it's showing right now, if I hit Alt H, it doesn't show. But if I hit Alt S, it does show. So it's just another way of clicking your button. Okay. Um, That's that. Okay. Now, I do know that there's some additional things you can do if you want, and I'm going to let you do those on your own. We did mess a little bit around with the timers earlier. So, anyways, that's your first, well, for some of you, it's your first program. Okay. So I hope you liked it. Uh, Hope you enjoyed doing this. This is kind of fun, I think. Um, but anyways, I wanted to help you out with that and have a great day. I will talk to you later.